The wall gives on the third strike. Not a crack, a breath. Cold air pushes out of the dark across the man's face, and it smells of wet stone and something older, like the inside of a jar sealed a very long time ago. He is standing in his own basement with a sledgehammer. He came down here to make his house a little bigger. It is 1963. The town is called Derinkuyu. And behind that wall, there is a corridor. And behind the corridor, there is a city, 18 levels deep, empty for 40 years, and nobody living above it knows that it is there. What does it actually feel like to move an entire population underground? Not for a night, but for months, with the animals, the grain, the children, and the dead? The answer is preserved in stone, 85 meters beneath that town. And it quietly overturns something we assume about civilizations, that the ones built to win are the ones that last. Cappadocia is the residue of fire. Two volcanoes, Erciyes and Hassan, buried this plateau in ash, and that ash compacted into ignimbrite, a soft, porous tuff, in places more than 100 meters thick. It is close to a perfect material. Freshly cut, it yields to an iron hand tool. Exposed to air, it hardens. You can carve a room in a week, and the ceiling will still be standing 3,000 years later. Derinkuyu descends 18 levels to a depth of 85 meters, a tower of 25 floors, driven downward instead of up. Estimates suggest it could hold 20,000 people, with their livestock and enough stored food to keep them alive. More than 50 ventilation shafts run through it. One of them falls 55 meters in a single drop. There are roughly 52 wells, 60 to 70 meters deep, reaching the water table beneath the rock. And here is the detail most visitors walk past. Many of those wells never open at the surface at all. You cannot poison a well you cannot find. Nobody knows for certain who cut the first room. The Turkish Department of Culture attributes the earliest excavation to the Phrygians in the 8th or 7th century before Christ. Others have argued for the Hittites, earlier still. The honest answer is that Derinkuyu was never built. It was accumulated, deepened by every generation that needed it. The first written glimpse of this way of living comes from a soldier. In the winter of 401 before Christ, Xenophon of Athens was retreating across the highlands northeast of here with 10,000 Greek mercenaries. In the 4th book of the Anabasis, he describes the villages they sheltered in. The houses were underground. The entrance was a mouth, like the mouth of a well, opening into wide chambers below. People climbed down by ladder. The animals came down a ramp cut for them. Inside there were goats, sheep, cattle, and birds, wheat, barley, and barley wine in great bowls, reeds laid across the surface. You leaned in and drank through the reed. A different corner of Anatolia, the same instinct. When winter comes, or cavalry, this land goes down. The city you can walk through today is mostly Byzantine work, and it was cut in fear. From the middle of the 7th century after Christ, Arab armies moved north through the Cilician gates almost every campaigning season. Umayyad columns first, then Abbasid. Cappadocia sat directly on the road. For roughly 300 years, invasion here was not a catastrophe. It was a season, like sowing and harvest. A farmer in one of these villages? We do not know his name. The records of that century keep only bishops and generals, measured his year in 3 parts: what he planted, what he gathered, and the weeks when someone had to watch the horizon. When the warning came down from the high ground, the village emptied into the earth. Grain first, then oil, then the lamps, then the animals, then the children. 100 steps down, the temperature settles between 10 and 15 degrees, and then simply stops changing. The same in August as in February. The air thickens with lamp smoke and animal breath and the flat mineral smell of wet tuff. And then, behind them, they closed the doors. The doors of Derinkuyu are round, cut from the same volcanic rock shaped like millstones, the heaviest weighing close to half a ton, 500 kilograms. Each waits in a carved recess beside the passage, to be rolled across the corridor and locked into a socket in the opposite wall. And in the center of every door there is a single, round hole. The hole is there for a pole, because that is the only way a human being moves that much rock. It is also, from the inside, somewhere to put a spear. But the essential fact is simpler. These doors can be worked only from within. There is no grip on the outer face, nothing to pull, nothing to lever. And the corridors leading to them were narrowed deliberately, shoulder width. The ceiling dropped so a man must enter bent forward alone, weapon lowered. He arrives, bent double in the dark, at half a ton of stone he cannot hold, cannot move, and cannot burn. Behind those doors, ordinary life carried on. On the second level, there is a long, barrel-vaulted hall with small rooms opening off it, widely identified as a school. On the seventh, a church cut in the shape of a cross, with crosses carved into the rock and Greek lettering on the walls. There are wine presses and oil presses, stables kept high near the best air, cellars, dining halls, and rooms cut for the dead, because people die underground too, and the dead cannot be carried up while the enemy is still above. Tunnels reported at 8 to 9 kilometers long once linked Derinkuyu to a second underground city, Kaimakli, two towns able to reach one another without touching daylight. Now look at what is missing. There are no battlements, no towers, no arrow slits, no gatehouse, no killing ground, no gate that swings outward for a counterattack. In 85 meters of engineering cut by hand over 30 centuries, there is not one feature designed to take ground or hold a line. Derinkuyu surrenders the surface, completely and immediately. It gives away the fields, the houses, the animals left behind, the standing crop, the church on the hill, and it keeps only the people. This is not a fortress. It is the architecture of disappearance. The strategy was never victory. The strategy was duration, to be somewhere else for as long as it takes, and to come up when the horizon is empty again. These people understood something we still struggle with. Surviving and winning are two different acts, and only one of them is required. You have inherited this instinct. You use it without noticing. The storm cellar under the farmhouse, the shelters dug under European cities in the 1950s, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault opened in 2008, 120 meters inside a frozen mountain, holding duplicates of the world's crop seeds against a future nobody wants to name out loud. Each one is the same sentence written in a different material. Keep a second version of us somewhere the surface cannot reach. We never stopped digging downward. We only stopped calling it a city. The last recorded use is closer than it feels. The British linguist Richard McGillivray Dawkins, working among the Greek-speaking Christians of Cappadocia between 1909 and 1911, wrote that when news of the massacres at Adana arrived, much of the village of Axo went into the underground chambers and would not sleep above ground for several nights. Then, in 1923, the population exchange between Greece and Turkey emptied Cappadocia of those families. They took what they could carry and left for a country most of them had never seen. Derinkuyu, Malakopi, in their language, went quiet. 40 years later, a man broke a wall in his basement and found it waiting. And every stone door in that city was standing open. Not broken, not forced, rolled back from the inside and left that way. 85 meters of tunnel, 3,000 years of hiding, and only one message left behind in all of it. The doors of Derinkuyu are open because every single time somebody came back up.